we're very much kind of caught in that. Things are like this and not like that. They exist from their own side, over there, but nothing to do with me. Yeah, we say, beauty lies in the eye of the beholder. Such a nice nice line, but it doesn't feel that way. You don't see this person as beautiful. You don't. How can you? I mean, look, she's really beautiful. Look, he is really beautiful. He's really handsome. And someone who disagrees, and you're like, huh? How can I not see it? It's from its own side, right? There's an inherent beauty, intrinsic beauty, objective beauty. Nothing to do with me. How can people in some countries think, I don't know, long ears, long noses, big lips, small lips, whatever, right? Squared skin, pointed skin is beautiful. How could they? It's not beautiful, right? Because I don't see it as beautiful. Because it's objective. Beauty is objective. That's our sense. And I'm not talking about our intellectual understanding. I'm talking about how we feel deep inside. So please don't check your intellectual understanding of those things. Check how you feel. Check your emotions. At times when there's strong emotions of can't be without that person. I want to really harm that person. I'm jealous of him or her. They're doing much better than me. These are strong emotions. Check. At that time, how did the person appear? Right? Our object of attachment. From their own side, they give us happiness. They're really good. From their own side, they're really bad, really negative. That's the time to check. So that's the problem. It's very hard to perceive it really because it slips underneath our hands. It's like, if I ask you about this truck, you're not terribly attached, none of you are terribly attached to this truck, not yet. Wait until Saturday. But none of you is really, so there's not strong emotions here. The moment there are strong emotions, the moment, like, oh, can't be without this, it seems to be beautiful from its own side. Oh, the wheel's coming off, great. I can actually start taking it apart. Okay. So, usually as well as the Dalai Lama describes this kind of chain when you go to a shop. I love that. It's so true. When you go to a shop and you see something, first it's just an object, right? It's not even like we have a strong sense it's objectively over there. It's, a thing. And then I look at it and I check. Oh, that would be really good if I did so-and-so and had that object. A certain phone, right? These iPhones or whatever with apps and what have you. Oh, if I used it for so-and-so, that would make my life so much easier. I could do. And it goes, the mind right away. Ooh. And it seems to be already some beauty is added. Some attractiveness is added. From its own side. It's almost like laughing at us. Buy me. Get me. It's not that expensive. It's on sale. From $500 to $450. Wow. $50. I don't know how expensive an iPhone is, but let's say, whatever. Anyway, so, in the moment, so that starts, it starts changing, right? It doesn't seem our mind is changing, the object changes, it's laughing at us. And then I buy it, and now it's mine. Ooh. Now you better not scratch it. You can scratch it as long as it's lying in the shop. I could not care less. But you do not mess around with my screen. Right? Don't scratch it. The stronger our attachment, someone holds it, it's like, get back to me. Very worried. They may drop it. It's mine. You see how it's attractiveness, how it's changed. It's objectively good. It's inherently, in from its own side, it gives me happiness. Nothing to do with my mind. Nothing to do. It's from its own side. It almost seems to have some personality, right? I mean, I talk to you those things, so I mean, it really seems to have some personality. Does that make sense? Do you get a sense of that? Right? How these objects seem to change magically, but we never question. We never question that. We have no sense that this comes only from the mind. That's just my own perception. It has never changed that object. It's exactly the same object that first I ignored, and now I feel, whoa. It really, there's a sense, and I'm talking about a sense, because it's not really intellectually here. It's more on an emotional level and harder to detect. With a person, persons are the best example, really. We meet someone at a party. We meet them over and over. We don't care. It's just a guy, it's just a girl. And one day something happens. I don't know what. Maybe they remind us of something because they're wearing the same pink shirt or a blue turtleneck, whatever. Something happens. And suddenly, they change. Suddenly they become attractive. Right? Become attractive. And this person, suddenly we see him or her as beautiful. We never saw him or her as beautiful. Suddenly there's this beauty. It's like, it was always there. I've just not noticed it. Right? Actually, it's the same. They never become more. They haven't put on weight, haven't lost weight, no more muscle, less muscle. You know, it's the same. But it's almost like, oh, I've never seen that. I've never seen that beauty. It doesn't seem like maybe I changed. It doesn't feel that way. It feels from their own side they've changed. Does that make sense? And then I have all these thoughts about them. I focus on one characteristic. Right? One kind of characteristic. And again, it's not that I, from my side, have something to do with perceiving that characteristic. It seems to be there, from its own side. Objectively, this characteristic. Objectively. Independent of my mind. It's over there. And it starts growing. Maybe it wasn't there in the first place, actually. We just make it up. But we really get attached to that characteristic that the person never had. We never even question ourselves. We want them to have that characteristic so badly that in our dream, this person has the characteristic. And then we want them. And then if we have a relationship, they're our partner or something, it's mine. Right? There's something we hold on to. It's not the mind, it's not the body. It's like, are you attached to his or her mind? Nah, not to the mind. The body, all right, okay. It's not just the body. Right? There seems to be something more, separate from mind and body. That essence. That, Honeyut, Yovaliyut. Am I saying it right?
Yeah.
All these youths. So many of them. Right? Okay? Does that make sense? Does that ring a bell? Is there some recognition? So let's investigate that. Let's really investigate that. So I've said already, when we perceive something, we never ever perceive the whole thing anyway. We have the sense there is something there, some goodness, but we only just ever perceive a part of it. So it's impossible to perceive the whole. On top of it, if such inherent existent, I don't know, whatever, the person, myself, this truck really existed, it could only be either one with its parts or separate from its parts. Does everyone agree? Either it's one with all the parts. So what is this made of? It's made of parts. Yeah, one part. It's made of this part. It's made of this part. It's made of these different parts, right? Okay. So this being made of parts, therefore, if I say there's some truckness, there's some essence of this, right? What is the essence of this truck? It's either, if there's some objectively existent truck, it can either be one with its parts, the same as with the parts, or separate from the parts. Do you agree? I mean, if you think of like, who is the essence, Michael? Who is the essence? Either Michael is one with his mind and body, or Michael is different from mind and body. So the sense we have of an I, either we're exactly the same as our mind and body, or we're totally different. There's no other way, is there? Is there another way? Does anyone else have a bit of a problem?
The mind and not the body, maybe?
I mean, for example, what are the things that make you, what are your characteristics? I mean, can you boil it down to mental qualities and physical qualities? Mind and body. If I were to say, what are your ingredients, right? It's mind and body, right?
Yes.
Okay. But there's a sense, we say my body, my mind. Okay? So it's implying there's an owner of my body and mind. Okay? Okay.
Which is separate.
Okay, so is it separate from the parts or is it exactly the same as its parts?
If it's exactly the same, so the parts are not mine.
Yeah, you couldn't say the parts are mine. Very good. So they must be separate. Okay, let's agree it's separate. So Michael is separate from his mind and body. Great. Very good. Well observed. So the truck also must be the same thing, right? The truck is separate from its parts. Okay. All right. I don't know, the screwdriver now. All right, so imagine I do this. I start taking it apart, right? Okay. Okay. Let me undo this. Okay, never mind. I'll work on this tonight. I'll find something I can open this up with. Okay, so imagine I'll take it apart. Will you be able to find a truck? Will you be able, if you took apart the truck, would you now, because if it exists separate from the truck, you should be able to take all the parts and find the truck. Because you said it exists, there is some essence, and it exists separate from the parts. Therefore, where is it? Can you find it?
It's on
Not there.
Not there. So the truck doesn't exist?
In that case, it doesn't exist.
In that case, what about if I took you apart? What's your name?
Doron.
Doron. If I took Doron, if I took you, like, it's the same thing. So I guess you also agree you're made of mind and body, right? You're made. If I took away your mind, if I took away your body, would Doron still exist?
Probably not.
Probably not. Probably not. Okay, that's a good doubt. It's like probably not. Okay. So if probably not, Doron does exist though, doesn't he?
Yes.
Yes. So not separate from the parts. Because if you took away the parts, you would still be able to find Doron.
Not separate.
Not separate from the parts. Okay? Does that make sense, Mireille?
Yeah.
Not separate from the parts. Okay, great. Not separate from the parts. One with the parts.
So which part?
All parts. Or is it one specific part he's one with? Is there one specific part that this truck is one with? A part we always have to perceive, because if it's one with this thing, we always have to be able to see this thing, to be able to see the truck. Okay? And if the truck breaks down, only this can break down. Because it's one with its tire. No, it doesn't work. So it's not one with its parts, and it's not separate from its parts.
So it's not.
So it doesn't exist. Michael doesn't exist, sorry. You don't exist. Can't be found. Michael, right? Okay, just to give you the reasonings. If he was separate from the parts, he can take away all the parts he's made of, everything he's made of, and still won't be able to find it. If he's one with his parts, is he one with all of his parts? His parts are plural. There's only one Michael. It's like he doesn't have a multiple personality, really. It's one Michael, right? One person.
But
Okay.
there are many things that we have a name in one for a group of things.
All right, so there's many Dorons, really, when it comes down to it.
No. What
No?
I'm saying is, if we tag something, a name, we could tag a group of things.
Ah,
And
okay.
it would be one.
Collection of mind and some aggregate.
Okay, so there's no Doron separate from mind and body, therefore, right? Because it's actually just the group of things we then therefore call Doron, right? Okay, this group of things. So then there is no separate Doron. There's no my mind. There's no owner of your mind.
That's probably
So my
a
mind is
mistake.
totally incorrect, right? It's incorrect to say my mind.
Right.
And is there a sense that when you came into this room, let's just check. Your mind has been changing, your body has been changing, but is there a sense that Doron, is there a sense of an I ever since the moment you came in until now? Like a
Yes.
continuity? Okay. And that I doesn't exist?
It could exist.
It could exist, very good. It could exist. Where does it exist? Where is it? Is it separate from your mind and body, or the same as your mind and body? Or is it one of them?
Taking the arguments that we discussed so far, it
Uh-huh.
could be the group of parts and of all the parts.
Oh, but you have a sense that the group, the group, okay, let's say the group. So the collection of the parts. Well, the collection of the part is singular. All the parts are plural. So you have many collections here. Again, collection is just another word for it. Saying I on the basis of these parts, or saying collection. What is the collection? What is the collection? Where's the collection? If it's one with the parts, or separate from the parts? Let's go on with that. What is the collection of the parts? Is it one with the parts or separate? What is a collection?
What is a truck?
It's the state of the
It's
part.
a word.
Pardon?
It's a word.
Oh, it's a word? A collection is a word?
Yeah.
My body's a word? It's just a word?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I don't have to worry about toothache and stuff. It's just a word.
It
I have
exists, but not the way.
So it's all, everything is just words.
Yes.
Everything is just words. Words are sound, right?
Everything that we see,
And you see sounds? You see words?
or everything we perceive with our senses,
Yeah. Are words.
is only
Only words.
yeah.
Hummus is just a word?
Yeah, conventional word that we gave to this.
What about the hummus that you taste? Is that a word?
It's something, but it's not a hummus.
So can we eat hummus? We can't eat a word, right?
We can
No.
eat something.
We cannot eat a word. So what is it what we eat actually when we eat hummus?
We eat
Well,
something,
something that the-
but the hummus.
What is the something? What is the something? What is the something you eat?
It's
Chickpeas. Chickpeas
we
is
call
just a
it,
word.
yeah, we call it hummus, but it's not hummus.
It's not hummus?
No, if a child comes and he never ate it, he says, I eat, give me this.
This.
It doesn't say
Is it this? Is this just a word? This. This is also just a word, so it can't be this. Because this is also just a word. It's not this.
No.
It's not this. So the child can't say, give me this, because it isn't this. This is just a word.
Gosh, we don't eat that, but
It's a meeting point, it's a state. Maybe a meeting point between things, particles,
Atoms, yeah. Alright. Meeting point.
time, place, and
It's a meeting point.
perceiver.
What do you mean with a meeting point?
It's I would call it a state.
A state, the hummus.
Yes. Yes, it's a state in which certain things have come together, and I gave it the name hummus, so might as well call it that way.
But there's something there.
Yes.
There's something there. What is that something that is there? Despite the name. Leave aside the name. What is it there? What is it there? When I say, like, shani, right? What about shani? What? Okay, shani is just the name we give, but there's some shaniness there. Shaniut. Right? Something there. What is that there? So forget about the name. There's still something there, isn't there? There's still some truck there. Isn't there? Is everything just a name? Well, anyway, these are important questions. This is the analysis we do here. So from a Buddhist point of view, when you do this, when you look for the essence of Michael, of Duran, of Shani, of everyone here, when you start looking, when you start what is called ultimate analysis, things start disappearing. Things start disappearing. They do exist, but they don't exist ultimately. When we start really looking for them, they start disappearing. Okay? So, to us that means therefore they don't exist. But they do exist. Because they exist conventionally. Huh? Yeah. I know that's what she feels. But still, hummus is just a word? Well, okay, but let's talk about this. This is what we're talking about. So if you get some of the gist here, just a little bit of what I've been talking about, this kind of, what's the word for it? That kind of dichotomy, or that kind of, it seems to be so solidly there. And the moment we start investigating, it's like, oh, maybe it's not that solidly there. Do you get at least that sense? Right? You never question it. I see a truck. That's it. But what I really see is never the entire truck. I walk. When I say I walk, it's just a part of me that walks. Right? But it seems when my legs walk, the moment I start walking, I pick up this I. I pick it up.
and it walks too.
That's the sense I have. Does everyone agree? Do you have that sense of yourself? Yeah? Sense of yourself? There's something there. And that is so important. my eye. My legs, all right, they're important because they're my legs, right? But other than that, it's the eye. That is so important. That eye, that thing that is picked up when I walk. That thing that when someone says, you know, you got a nice hand, for example. Oh, it's my hand. Someone is saying something nice to me, not to something that's other mine. If you say you have a nice hand, for example, right? You were just to say something, give me a compliment. You just give a compliment to a part of me, which is not me. But it seems, not only have you said something nice about my hand, you have said something nice about me. Though I'm not a hand. So you're my friend. You just said something nice about my hand. If you say something bad about my hand, I don't like you. Because not only have you said something to this, you have said something to I. Right? Somehow I have a sense that there is something separate from my hand. And if you give a compliment, if you say something nice or bad to a part of me, you say it to me. Because it is something separate. And that rules the world. That rules our problems, that I. That sense of an I, let's say, that I doesn't, well, let's see, we say it doesn't exist, that kind of I. But we have a sense of that, and that rules all our actions. Just think any kind of moment when you got angry. In that moment there's a sense, you know, someone said something about some characteristic that isn't even me. It's not me, right? The I owns those, but I feel, because they've said that to that characteristic, and therefore I feel they've also said it to I. Something separate there. That's what we need to investigate. That's where all our problems come from, by adding something. And the truck is just not that important, unless you're really attached to a truck. Okay, that is a problem. Being really, really attached to the truck, well then it really becomes a problem. But the main problem is with the I, having that sense. Okay, but this is an ultimate analysis. This is called ultimate analysis. So, if you just read through this on your own, so I've done it basically, if we're one with our parts, there's a problem. If we're the same, if we're the same as our parts, there's a problem, because otherwise we become plural. You know, if the I is one with all its parts, then the I becomes plural, because the parts, or the parts become singular, because the I is singular. Okay? Does that reasoning kind of make sense? Yes?
That last bit, it's argumentative. You say, why cannot something be a plural? Why cannot something say, you say, if it's singular, it cannot be plural. But you're saying that, but why cannot it be plural?
Can something be singular and plural at the same time? Can it be both? Be one and many?
How about water?
One made of
Is it one or many? You can't even count it. You don't count it, but you can count like a cup of water, for example. If you have a certain container, you can start counting it. And there's a difference between one container of water and two and three, right? So one and many, they're contradictory. So if I said, I am all my parts, I'm one with all my parts. I'm separate. It feels I'm separate. I actually feels that way. I'm separate from my mind and body. That's how it feels. But of course, if I remove my mind and body, I wouldn't find an I. So the only option I have left is, the I is the same as mind and body. Where then, of course, if I say my body and my mind, that becomes tricky, because that seems to imply something separate. But let's just leave away that language anyway. So if I just said they're one, then I have so many different minds. But there's one I. Right?
So what is, as a question, what is this I?
What is the I? Very good question. So far, we've only seen what it's not. So we've basically said the I doesn't exist that way. It doesn't exist objectively, intrinsically. Even though it seems to be separate here, even though the struct seems to be intrinsically, objectively over there. But when we start investigating, it appears that way, but it can't exist that way. Just as the sun appears to be rotating around the globe, when we investigate, it's not possible. Just as with the tires seem to be moving in the opposite direction, but that's impossible because the car moves forwards and not backwards. So we can investigate and see that it appears in one way, but it exists in a different way. Okay? So we get already a bit of a sense. But basically, we've seen how it doesn't exist. how in certain situations, and this is what's important, when you do the actual meditation, you try to bring to mind situations where there was a very strong sense of I. And it's stronger at sometimes and sometimes less strong. Just as sometimes there's more of a pronounced sense, that sense that the sun rotates around the earth, and sometimes there's a lesser strong sense. Sometimes we have more of a wrong perception and sometimes less. So let's think of the times when it was strongest, the times of strongest emotion. Very strong sense. And then we can come to see it cannot exist. And what do? We fall, possibly, into another extreme. So one extreme was the extreme, the I is there permanently, objectively, able to establish itself, totally independent of anything, just as with the truck. And then we fall into the extreme, it doesn't exist. But there's a middle way. There's something in between. The extreme of permanently, solidly being there, and the extreme of not being there at all. So what is that? Okay. Alright, so having thus negated this way, the wish that the car does not exist, or the truck, or the I, we now need to posit the way it does exist. So this takes us back to this description. So if you read through this, I think the different arguments you can understand it. But please, as a homework, page 3, I don't know, is it the same? Page 3 in English and in Hebrew? It's not. Okay. So it basically talks about the different ways in first you identify the object of negation, and then you have the reasoning. It cannot be one with the parts, it cannot be different from the parts, right? So please read through this tonight, not now.
It's under
Tonight.
the chapter, the object of negation.
Yeah, what page is that in Hebrew?
2, 3, and part of it. It has the title object of negation.
No. Yeah, dependent arising and object of negation.
Yes.
Okay.
So
the reasoning specifically, just above dependent arising, that last bit of reasoning, one with it. Whenever you see the truck, you see only something that's not the truck. It's one or not. Please read through the reasoning. Take your time. Take some time, whenever you have some quiet moment, and read through it and see whether it makes sense. If it doesn't, please come back to me tomorrow. Okay? All right. But dependent arising, this is her question now. How do phenomena exist? If they exist, if the I exists, how does it exist? Now my answer is a little indirect. I don't know whether it's right away, but just bear with me. Okay? So, it is said that they are pratya samutpada. That's the Sanskrit word. Or dendel, dinjin dawa junga. That's the Tibetan word, which actually means they're dependently arisen. They're dependent. They don't exist objectively. Phenomena exist, but they exist in dependence on something. They're interdependent. So in English, it's actually in Tibetan, dente is the short version, which just means dependent arising. It's translated as dependent arising. But the longer version is that which arises as a phenomenon. So the truck, it arises as a truck that is connected and dependent on other phenomena. Or the I. The I exists, not the I that I describe, such an objective, independent kind of I. That doesn't exist. There's still an I, a dependently existent I. And that is different from what I said before. So, the concept of dependent arising addresses the way in which phenomena actually exist. I've negated it before, now I establish how it exists. So to be a little bit technical, because all come from the Tibetan, and in order to understand that idea of dependent arising a little better, I'll try to explain each word of this Denjin Dawa Jungwa in Tibetan. Where basically just Den means to depend or rely. Jing means end. Dawa means to connect, relate. Jungwa means arise. So therefore the whole sentence can be translated as that which arises as a phenomenon that is connected and dependent on other phenomena. Okay? Alright. It doesn't tell us that much, but it's already taking us in the right direction.
I didn't get what you were saying in general.
No, I'm sure you didn't, because I'll explain it now. I will explain it. So see, after I've explained it, if you still have that same problem, then definitely I'll try and clarify it. But in other words, let's just see the difference between how I perceived phenomena previously to exist and how I perceive how they actually exist. So I say, I have a sense that there's an iPhone over there, independently over there. independent of my perception. It seems to be beautiful and attractive from its own side. Independent, right? It's likewise with this truck. It seems to be out there, waiting for me to discover. Right? As if it was like, almost like waiting. I mean, it's like if it sits here in the room, you know, I walk in, it seems it's always been there. It's this permanent, concrete entity over there. This structures. Okay? So, that cannot exist. That doesn't exist. We've done the kind of analogy previously. There's a very strong sense that it exists that way, but if we do the analogy, that disappears. So it seems there is no truck in the first place, because how could there be a truck if it wasn't such an independent kind of truck? So let's see how it does exist. It exists, it does exist because it's a dependent phenomenon. It's connected and dependent on other phenomena. So therefore we have to now establish how it exists. Not independently, objectively, but independence. And there's 3 ways in which it can depend. 3 ways. So, dependent arising. So a phenomenon exists because they're dependent arisings. It's a really awkward way of saying it. I prefer to say, dependent arising is the technical term, but I prefer to say phenomena exist because they're dependent or interdependent. They depend on other phenomena, and other phenomena depend on them. That's why they exist. And there's 3 ways in which we can say this truck depends on other phenomena. 3 ways. Okay, and the 3rd way is most important. Number 1 and 2 are important, but actually the way this truck can be understood is by way of understanding the 3rd type of dependence. And it takes you back to what you say, but it's just a little bit off the mark, your explanation. A little bit off, but you're pretty close. Okay, what's your name?
Miri.
Miri. So what Miri said was a little off the mark. It's merely a word. Hummus cannot be eaten. Okay. So let's see. Let's look at it. So taking the example of a car, of course, or the truck, there's so many different phenomena that this truck is dependent on, it's connected to, in order for it to exist. So they are responsible for the existence of this truck. Okay, those phenomena can be classified into 3 categories. It's dependent on causes and conditions, this truck. It's dependent on parts. And it's dependent on imputation by name and thought. Look at the Hebrew, because the English is weird. Imputation by name and thought. Can someone read that out? The 3.
Actually, שזה תיוג באמצעות שם ומחשבה.
Well, these all 3?
No, the first one is גורמים ותנאים, שני זה חלקים, והשלישי תיוג באמצעות שם ומחשבה.
באיזה עמוד זה?
5.
Okay. Anyway, so please, for now, this is great, you have it, but also please read as a homework. I want to stretch your brain. Stretching your brain doesn't just mean here. The whole retreat is about stretching the brain, stretching the mind.
Read till when?
I'll tell you in a moment, but everything so far, what he's just read out, those 3 definitely, until there you definitely have to read. And then I'll tell you in advance, if you have the time to also read in advance. Okay, it just helps me make it easier, of course, to explain, and for you it's just easier. We have some material, might as well use it. Okay. Alright, so causes, conditions, parts, imputation by name and thought. Okay, what are they? So let's look at them. Each and every one. Let's go through each and every one. So, therefore we talk about 3 types of dependent arising, logically. Dependence on causes and conditions, dependence on parts, dependence on imputation by name and thought. So, this truck exists because it's dependent on causes and conditions, it's dependent on parts, and it's dependent on imputation. Okay. By name and thought. So that's important to understand. Alright, let's look at dependence on causes and conditions. The first type of dependence. Oh, and what's important, of course, is understanding the dependence of those 3 levels helps us to understand the lack of inherent existence of this truck. So this can be also formulated differently. The emptiness of inherent existence of this truck. And the emptiness of inherent existence of this truck is, in short, in brief, called the emptiness of the truck. It's just the emptiness of a certain characteristic. It doesn't just mean emptiness just as in there's no truck. But there's no inherent, this truck does not exist inherently. So therefore it is empty of inherent existence. So that makes sense? I mean, if you've read it in Hebrew, I hope this kind of comes through in Hebrew too. Okay, so therefore this truck, this understanding of how it exists in dependence on causes and conditions, that assists our understanding of its emptiness, and the understanding of its emptiness assists us in understanding the lack of inherent existence. The understanding of lack of inherent existence of this truck helps us to understand how this is a dependently arisen phenomenon. And we cannot expect to understand it right away. We understand a little bit about the emptiness and a little bit about the dependent arising. And then we think about it a little more and we understand even better the emptiness and better the dependent arising. And then we give it some time, and every time we dig deeper. It's said to be, the analysis is of deep. It's like this understanding is very deep. Like when you dig a hole, right? You cannot kind of go, whoop, and the hole is there. Slowly you dig deeper, right? Slowly you take some off. And this is likewise here. Our mind can go deeper and deeper. It just needs to be trained. So we hear about lack of inherent existence. Okay, but some sense. And then how does it exist? As a dependently arisen phenomenon. Get some sense. And the next time we think about its lack of inherent existence, we get a sense it's even deeper. So because we're so not familiar with this concept, we need to slowly dig deeper. And it may take many, many years, but never mind. However long it takes. It's life-changing. Okay, that understanding. All right. Because the selfish mind comes from that misperception. And selfishness is the root of all problems. Look around. Okay. So no one tells you selfishness is bad. No one says that. Right? So if it's bad, stop it. That doesn't help. Selfishness doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense because the object doesn't exist. The selfish mind holds on to something that has never existed. It's as easy as that. Okay? Alright, but let's look at the dependence now. This truck exists because it's dependently arisen. I exist because I'm a dependently arisen. I'm dependent in terms of 3 levels. There were three modes I'm dependently arisen. I'm a dependent phenomenon. The first one is dependence on causes and conditions. This is the coarsest level of dependent arising. It's the easiest to understand. It's easier to understand than the second and third level. And it actually only just applies to impermanent phenomena. Are you still alright? Should I stop it here tonight because you're all exhausted? No, you're waking up?
Yeah.
Getting back now? I don't want to exhaust you too much, so please, it's up to you. I know you had a long day, but you're still full of... Okay, you want to hear? Alright. Pardon?
Not inherently.
Not inherently, that's good. But conventionally still bad enough. Okay, I go on a little bit longer. You tell me, like 15 minutes? It's too long?
No.
Some disagreement there. Okay, I'll give you 15 more minutes, okay? Yeah. Alright, so this applies to impermanent phenomena. I mean, let's leave aside permanent phenomena, it doesn't matter. Phenomena that change moment by moment. Okay, those are impermanent phenomena. So things that change moment by moment. They are produced in dependence on causes and conditions. So this truck has numerous causes and conditions that were responsible for this truck. For instance, it exists on, the person who made it, on the material, that was previously non-assembled, all the parts that were, so many causes. I mean, think of the chain of causes and conditions. I mean, causes and conditions here meaning causes kind of main causes and conditions kind of more, not main, but secondary kind of causes. Okay, so many things. So the favorite example, not my favorite, in general, the favorite example is the example of a sprout. Does everyone know what a sprout is? Nevet. Okay, so think of a nevet. Think of a sprout. A sprout, I mean, of course, this is a country full of farms and, kibbutzim with farms and so forth. So we all know about how a seed slowly gives rise to a sprout. The seed is the cause of the sprout, the main cause. And then you have the assisting conditions, cooperative conditions, which are what?
Sunlight, water, and
The soil, the water, the warmth, the rain, the worm, the whole parcel, okay? So all of those give rise to the sprout. So we can say the sprout exists, even though it doesn't exist inherently, objectively, from its own side, it still exists because it arises in dependence on causes and conditions. Okay. So as I mentioned before, this understanding of this level of dependence also promotes the understanding of emptiness. Because it depends on causes and conditions, that sprout, it cannot exist objectively. It cannot really, when you start looking for it, you cannot find it. Okay. So how does that work? Because this takes us now to something that's a little hard to understand. But we say this sprout, okay, here I really need you to think of a sprout because it's easier to think of a sprout because we can actually imagine how the seed starts germinating, it becomes bigger, it blows up, right? It changes its shape, possibly its color, and slowly something grows out of it. Can you imagine that process in front of you like a movie? Think of it right in front of you. Oh, okay, it's right there. So, when you think of that, there are these moments in time. Okay? So we say the sprout is a sprout. Let's look at the result, the sprout, because of all these moments. So it seems, okay, I want to use this board, if you don't mind. Okay, it's easier. Should I take this or should I?
Yeah, you can use that as a mic. Yeah.
לא, לא, שתיק...
יותר לך?
לא, לא, כי הוא עושה רעשים.
לא עושה.
לא עושה. Doesn't make noise.
להגביר?
להדליק ליאורה.
So this is very simple. I mean, it's just a drawing of a sprout. Okay. Does that make sense? I mean,